I would also like to thank Jan Futterman and the staff of the Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission for coordinating this hearing, and I especially want to thank our witnesses for their attendance. It is my hope that today's hearing will bring some much-needed awareness to the human rights abuses currently taking place in Syria. I would also like to examine the current refugee situation that has resulted from the violence perpetrated by the Syrian government. As we sit here today, crimes against humanity are taking place in Syria. In its desperate attempts to cling to power, the authoritarian government of President Bashar al-Assad has carried out extrajudicial executions, arbitrary arrests, torture, denial of medical assistance to the wounded, and the deprivation of basic services to the civilian population. The district of Daras in the south has been particularly hard hit by Syrian security forces, leading to over 400 deaths, while the overall death toll throughout Syria has risen to well over 1,500. There have been reports of security forces using live ammunition against unarmed civilians, of shootings by snipers positioned on rooftops of public buildings, and the deployment of tanks in densely populated areas. Just recently, security forces have responded to protests in the western city of Hama, which is evidence that the protests as well as the violence is spreading. The situation has understandably spurred on a mass exodus of refugees attempting to escape the violence by fleeing to Turkey. The Syrian government's military operation against cities in the north has reportedly led 15,000 Syrians to flee to Turkey, where 10,000 of them have been relocated to refugee camps near the border. All the while, Syrian security forces have been violently trying to keep people from fleeing. Those who are lucky enough to escape Syria live in makeshift camps along the Syria-Turkey border, where conditions are extremely difficult. In short, the human rights situation in Syria is dire. Sometimes when such grave human rights violations occur in real time, it makes it difficult to grasp the gravity of what is taking place. Sometimes we believe that there's a certain inevitability to it all. It's only that when we take a step back that we realize what we have really witnessed. I don't believe that the violence in Syria is inevitable. I believe that something can be done. We are not powerless. We have a responsibility to act. There is no inevitability to the atrocities being committed by the Syrian government against the Syrian people. I hope that this hearing will highlight the magnitude of the human rights violations taking place in Syria, as well as the urgency with which we need to act to prevent the continuation of such violations. I also, before I introduce our first witness, I would like to also recognize and praise our U.S. Ambassador in Syria, Robert Ford, who traveled to the city of Hama on Friday, a dangerous trip in and of itself, and was present to witness the peaceful protests. The French embassy, following the American lead, also went. Reports indicate that this diplomatic presence spared the demonstrators from additional harsh reprisals by Syrian security forces, or at least for that day. It was the right thing to do, a good thing to do, and a courageous act on behalf of peaceful, nonviolent protest and in support of basic human rights. We are honored to have as our first witness Michael H. Posner, the Assistant Secretary of Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor at the U.S. Department of State. We welcome you here, and you can begin your testimony. Thank you.